Good day, everyone. We are from Group 2 would like to present to you the influence of frontier heritage in American culture nowadays. I am Noel with my fellow groupmates Sakar, Wilbert, Albert, and our leader Judith are going to compare the similarities and differences between the interview that we have with a fellow American and the guided textbook, which is the fourth edition of American Ways, an Introduction to American Culture, written by Maryanne Kearny Datesman, Joann Crandall, and Edward N. Kearney, regarding to the fourth chapter, Frontier Heritage. We have interviewed an American who is initialized as MP. She lives in the state of Virginia, United States. We asked her by email and we asked her about several things regarding to our chapter and American culture in general as well. Several emails later, we have found an answer and we can compare the similarities and differences between the interview and the guided textbook.
And next, we are going to go over the summary of our group's chapter in the textbook called The Frontier Heritage. The first subtitle of this chapter is The Impact of the American Frontier. The frontier era began in the 1600s when white settlers first settled in America, and it ended in 1890 when the last western lands were settled. The era left a lasting impression with the American people, most notably with President Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush. Though this era was often romanticized in film, modern Americans have acknowledged the crimes that white settlers committed towards American Indians and has taken the step to showcase Indian culture in museums like the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. The second subtitle of this chapter is Self-Reliance and the Rugged Individualist. As the Americans who lived in the frontier were free of societal rules, they were also deprived of society's comfort and conveniences. They had to build their own houses, garden, and farm their own food, thus creating the idealized American male hero, the rugged individualist. There are two types of the rugged individualist, each drawn from a different time period. One is drawn from the Civil War in the 1860s, where it is mostly about men against the wilderness. David Boone is most known during this era. The second is drawn from the last phase of the western frontiers, and it is mostly cowboys. The third subtitle of this chapter is Inventiveness and the Can-Do Spirit. The frontier also respected the inventive individual. The self-reliance of this era encouraged people's inventiveness. In turn, many outsiders were impressed at all the new gadgets that the frontier invented to help ease their workload. This inventiveness also leads the way for another characteristic, which is the can-do spirit, or the belief that every problem has a solution. And the last subtitle of this chapter is Equality of Opportunity. In the western frontier, people would often treat other people as social equals, thus creating an environment where everyone is treated equally and are presented with the same opportunities. There's also a lesser divide between the rich and the poor due to this fact.
Okay, so now we are moving to comparison between the textbook and the result of the interview. So, the first similarities is gun owning law. It is located in page 84, paragraph 18. In this paragraph, Americans owning gun for hunting, target practice, and protecting their family. Much like with the textbook, the interviewees state that people owning gun for recreation purposes like target shooting and hunting. Some people also feel the needs of owning guns to protect their family. On to the second similarities, which is the advantage of the American frontier. It is located in page 81, paragraph 7. The textbook states that the frontier heritage is closely related with individual freedom, self-reliance, and equality of opportunity. Similar with the textbook, the interviewees state that American frontier is about independence, hard work, and self-reliance.
Move to the next similarities,
which is about the difference between Americans and other countries in the spirit of inventiveness. It is located in page 85, paragraph 21 until 22. This paragraph states that Americans have a spirit of inventiveness because of the self-reliance. That's probably what differentiates Americans from other countries. Similar with the textbook, the interviewee also stated that American spirit of inventiveness could differ from Indonesia, probably because US is a country that built from the individual freedom. So there is a little concern on getting criticism. While Indonesia, citing that this country is still value community and conformity.
Following to the next similarities, which is the negative impact of owning a gun. According to the guided textbook, it is stated that because of the gun law, there are many cases of misused guns in public places, such as the peaceful suburban, movie theaters, and elementary schools. The result of our interview confirmed the similarities between the book and the interview because the interviewee herself also concerned about the misuse gun law, which is the result of many tragic deaths in the United States. And the last similarities between the textbook and the result of our interview is about inventiveness. In the guided textbook, it is stated that the frontier people constantly facing a new problem and feel the need for experiment to solve the problem. The interviewee herself also said the similar thing. People in the United States, there are still people with the spirit and inventiveness to solve a certain problem. For instance, they have to find a solution to end the climate change. Another example is that they have to find a solution how to reduce pollution. And lastly, how to find a solution to take care of COVID-19.
Move on to the contrast. So, the first topic is about gun owning rights. According to the textbook, in page 85, paragraph 20, there are two different types of people regarding these rights. One who supports the gun owning rights, and the other is the one who opposes the rights. Well, the American that we interview states that she has her own perspective. She believes that having guns for recreation and hunting is okay. However, she argues that government should decide which kind of guns that ordinary people can buy. Next one is about the heroes. According to the textbook, on page 83, paragraph 14, American heroes are depicted as someone who shows their strength through physical violence. However, the American interviewee says that due to this pandemic era, the meaning of hero has changed. The heroes are those who are risking their lives of getting sick to help fulfill the people's need. For example, bus drivers, airline hostesses, people who work in supermarkets, sanitation workers, and people who work in nursing home facilities. And the last one talks about inventiveness. The textbook states that the spirit of inventiveness comes from the can-do spirit. It is on page 85, paragraph 21. Meanwhile, the interviewee says that oftentimes money motivates inventiveness. This will lead to corruption. For example, the invention of new vaccine for the coronavirus is set at a high price that there might be some people who cannot afford buying the vaccine. This will result little inventiveness.
After knowing the similarities and the differences between the American interviewee and the textbook related with American culture, especially the frontier heritage, we take two reflections from this lesson. The first one is reflection related to ourselves. From this lesson, we learn that most of the American values at the time being are taken from their frontier heritage. Even though that it is taken from their frontier heritage, the values that the Americans have are still relevant up until now. And the second one is new or important lesson that we learn from the interview. From the interview, we learned that the value of the people in a country is mainly influenced by the culture of the country itself. So, as I mentioned before, the Americans' value are mainly influenced by their frontier heritage, which means the frontier heritage is the culture of the Americans itself. And it goes the same with Indonesian people. Indonesian values are mainly taken from their frontier heritage, for example like Pancasila. Thus, the quality of the people in certain countries can be seen from the heritage that the frontier gave and the culture itself. So, that's all from our presentation. I hope you learned something from our group, from our presentation, and you found our presentation to be interesting and helpful. Thank you very much for watching and have a nice day.